What is good, YouTube? Here we are. It's currently Sunday around lunchtime. Just making a quick video. I thought it'd be good to do a little family video and how explaining a little bit about my situation. And I thought, Sunday is typically a family day for a lot of people. We're lucky that we can sort of all get together on a Sunday and spend a bit of time together and do different activities and a little bit of family bonding, and that's sort of one thing I wanted to track into today in this video. Try and not make it too long-winded, because I think this sort of topic can get sort of into the nitty-gritty and deep. That it's sort of I don't want to I'm just going to give everyone's, I suppose, an idea of what I do, and I won't even give my wife's perspective. Not that that's not up to me to give her perspective on things, and I'm sure she's got a different marginally different outlook on some things to me, and that's what makes a great partnership and parenting, and why it's it's not always possible to have a mum and dad situation. A lot of people do really well in a single parent situation, but that's something that's super important to me, is that mother and father influence on a child and their upbringing. There's many factors that go into that, but I won't go into it too heavily. But basically, I just wanted to talk today about building like bonds and relationships with children, and then obviously your partner as well. And that's I suppose you do that in a multitude of ways, and little things over time that can affect a relationship. And it's funny when you think about a relationship with your child, like it's sort of a given that you have a relationship with your child, but it's not always easy, and it's not always perfect or great, even for that matter. And that's something that I'm always working on and need to get better at, is my relationship, in particular with my son. I think father and son dynamics can quite often go in opposite directions, because they're so similar and they clash so hard. And that's kind of I think what I personally struggle with is my son and I have very similar interests, and I think we're at heart, we're similar people, but it takes a lot of willpower for me not to sort of overparent him and allow him to make his own mistakes, and try and do the best I can to guide him, and basically be an example for what I would like him to become. And even saying that out loud, it sort of sounds weird, as like I'm trying to overdo it, but I sort of take the sort of wider path, and be there when he wants me to be there, and then try and guide him when he needs or wants guidance, should I say. It's probably, but it's very hard as a father to actually like allow him to make his own mistakes, and not sort of baby him along the way and try and stop him from making mistakes. Well, I've got I think the best way of parenting for me personally is just to allow him to make his mistakes and then talk to him about it, going on, go after the fact, and as a parent, that's the hardest thing to do, is let your children make mistakes or hurt themselves or do the wrong thing, and then suffer the consequences, when obviously beforehand you could have said something that could have helped them avoid that situation one way or another. And I think in life, like, realistically, learning by failure is the best way to learn, and it's the quickest way to learn, because you get instant feedback as to what's happened and what's gone wrong, and then you can make adjustments accordingly. And that's what I'm still doing with them, and with even with my wife. It's always a learning process, and we're all evolving as time goes on. And Hannah is a much different person now to what she was when we first met, and I'm probably assuming I'm pretty similar. I'm probably different as a man as well to what I was then, and obviously the kids evolve over time really quickly as well. So it's always an evolving situation, I suppose, and being adaptable and not having one set, rule forever is, that's a pretty tough way to go about it. And I don't, it's not that I don't agree with it or whatever. Like, there's, people are pretty staunch in their beliefs. I think it comes down to core beliefs, I suppose, at the end of the day too. Like, I don't believe core beliefs have changed as such. It's just the way you might handle them or I suppose put them onto your kids in a different way. Like, a 5-year-old child is going to, attack something differently to a 10-year-old and then to a 15-year-old. So the way you explain things to them might be, is what has to change over time. And that's where becoming friends with them is great, in a sense that you want to be able to talk to them about whatever, but it's also the delivery still needs to be there from a parent's perspective, and a leader or a mentor or someone that has had experience in that topic before, and not, I suppose, overdoing it with them beyond their own capabilities of understanding what you're actually talking about. So, I'm no professional at this, and I suppose the way I'm fumbling through these words as well is something that, it's something that it's very near and dear to me, because it's something that I struggle with personally. Like, just you want to be the best person / father, husband you can be. Most people think like that. But the actual delivery of it is something that takes time and patience and mistake making and getting feedback and whatever from the person that you might be delivering that to, and how you go about it. So I don't think you ever are perfect at it. I'm just giving my feedback as to what how I handle some things, and I certainly don't handle everything perfectly, that's for sure. The children, the child dynamic is very different in our family. They're all very different in their own way, and I would say most families are sort of like that to a degree. Like, the little idiosyncrasies that a parent would notice within a child. Like, someone might look at our 3 children and think, they're all quite similar, but behind closed doors they're definitely not, and I would say that's pretty common for most children. I think the big thing for me is actually getting one-on-one time with the child. That is sometimes difficult but it doesn't need to be a lot, and that's the biggest thing I think with kids is kids are more about quality over quantity. I think quantity, overdoing it with them, actually allows them to become a little bit sort of reliant on the parent, because parents tend to take over situations and do too much for their children in a lot of circumstances, and it sort of can inhibit how their learning goes. And for me, like, learning by experience and learning by making mistakes is like the best way to learn, because it's instant feedback and it shows them exactly what's going on straight away. And there's so many things in life where that's relevant, not just with your kids. So it's but having that one-on-one time, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be heaps of time. It could just be a little conversation at the end of a day, or but when you're putting them to bed, or at night, or even just in the car, and you just have that conversation with them where it's just you and them, and they're interacting directly with you and you're interacting directly with them, and there's no other outside source, and you could just be talking about whatever that happened in their day or whatever happened in my day, and you have that bond in that moment where it's just you and them. And that's where those little conversations come up. And I know they're like sponges, kids, so you got to be so careful with what you say to them. And that can be you could promise them something, and then 2 weeks later they'll remember that one thing that you promised them, and you've promised that to them, and you owe it to them to fulfill that. And that's where just having that honesty and that, that, I suppose, I don't even know the word, but basically just sticking to what you say you're going to do for them, it can make them or break them too. And again, that's something that I'm working on personally, and thinking about often, is that, my wording and what I promise my children is something that I've got to stick to. And it's sometimes really difficult, because in the moment you're generally talking them about doing something and then getting a return for that, whatever that is. And that return could be whatever, and like a milkshake, or you just promise them something that means something to them at the time. And it's important that you hold your end of the bargain up too, especially if they do. And that's where I think relationships and bonds are built, and trust is built, and trust is a big thing, and within any relationship, and especially with your kids. And it's sort of I don't think it's a topic that is really, I've never really thought about with a child, because you just expect your child to trust you. And I know for me that's something that I believe that I've broken with my children, a lot of times, and that relationship, I feel, has deteriorated in certain circumstances because of that. And that's my fault, not theirs, and that's something that I'm always looking to build. And I don't think it's ever gone forever. It's just a matter of, building it back, and building that, that faith back in them, in you, as you remember, you're the adult in the situation. And that's sometimes tough, to sort of suck that up and understand that what you said, means something to them. It might not mean as much to you, but it means everything to them. And as a parent, they put their faith in you, and then it's got to be repaid in one way or another. And that's where being honest and holding your word and sticking to things on both sides, good and bad, is very important, I believe, in being a good parent to your kids. And like I said, that's something that I'm always working on. And it's not that I'm trying to overdo that or anything, but it's just those little conversations, sticking to my word. And if I promise them something, and they fulfill what I needed them to do, whatever it might be, and then I stick to my word, is because they've done their part as well. So I think that's something that, again, that your relationship with your kids, and then with your partner being involved in that too, that's something that's their conversations, and little team talks that you have with your wife or your partner, that I think need to be commonplace in the household as far as parenting goes. So you are on the same team as far as the kids go, because trust me, there's nothing worse than when the mother thinks one thing and the father thinks the other thing, or the partner whatever, they have opposite sort of opinions on some sort of circumstance. And it's finding that middle ground is generally where the gold lies. So it's having those conversations about the way things might be handled, and what you do in your household. And there's no one plan for every household either. Don't get me wrong there. There's different strokes for different folks, and how you handle your own children and your conversations within your household is completely on you and up to you. But being on the same team, I think, is paramount to being to having success with your children and their upbringing and whatever, because there's no stronger force than a mother and a father on raising children, or a mother and a mother and a father, whatever whatever it is in your household. I'm not saying I don't care either way. I've got friends that do both, so that's by the by, but there definitely needs to be a bit of a yin and a yang in that partnership too, I think. So the child isn't having one sort of side of the track every time. So that is that could be disagreed upon, but that's just my opinion, for what it's worth. And I think, for me, like I said, the biggest thing at the moment one of the big things that I'm working on with my children is having that small one-on-one time, and just try and make that effort, even if it's only a little one conversation a day, or once every second day, something like that. Because honestly, sometimes that's a lot too. Like, it doesn't sound like much, but when you're busy and the days get away from you, you're busy with work, you're busy with whatever your own do it yourself, and especially being a father or a dad, I've got a lot of shit going on, and selfish stuff too, like my own training and work and what I want to get out of a day. It makes for a full day, and then stacking family on top of that, which is number one. That's and making I tick all those boxes with them too is just as important as what I tick, ticking the boxes with me too. So that's where it becomes difficult, is when you're stacking all those things one on top of the other. The day gets you've got a lot of boxes to tick, and it gets hard. It gets real hard, and I think it's where it's so easy for it to get away from you, and that's where I was saying before about the quality over the quantity. Don't overdo it, because I think they know too. They know when you're trying too hard and making it like over the top, and that's where I think it can go the other way, where the kids start to become spoiled, or the wife becomes spoiled, or whatever it might be. It's trying too hard can often have the opposite effect. So it's quality over quantity, and keep the conversations about them, and then if they're looking for feedback, give them feedback. Don't give them feedback unless they're looking for it. And how you stack those conversations is maybe that's a topic for another day, but it's always a work in progress, and it's always evolving. The kids are always evolving, we're always evolving. It's not one thing set in stone. So there's no point me going, this is what you do, list it out and blah blah blah, because what may work this week won't work in a year's time, because that person's changed. So I think, again, just the quality and making it about them is what's important, as being a parent and a leader. And then if they want feedback, then be there for them. Don't force that upon them, unless there needs to be some sort of disciplinary stuff there or whatever. But again, like I said, the morals and the significant cornerstone ways of the way you live your life and whatever will fall back, they will sort of fall close to those as well, and they will understand when they're in the wrong even before you need to say anything. If you're living life at your with your the way you want to do things, and your morals in alignment. But yeah, if you take anything away from this dribble, make each conversation about the child, and ask them about their day, ask them about what they achieved, what they could have done better, little things like that. Just sort of gets the conversation rolling, and finish it with a hug and I love you, and you'll be amazed how much that means to them, in just that short little quality period of time. And again, it doesn't need to be overdone, over fleshed out, or whatever it might be, because hopefully there's plenty of just normal days where nothing really goes wrong or whatever, and it's just a nice one-on-one moment, eye contact, a kiss and a cuddle, or whatever you're into with your child, to finish that conversation off and let them know that they're loved and supported, and I think that means a world to them. And they may not say it, or the old giving them a hug and their arms are down by their side, and some days it's like that. It's just but that, as long as they know that you're there for them, I think that's what's important. And realistically, I don't think each individual is any different to that. We want to talk about ourselves a lot of the time, and we want people to be interested in what our day was like, and so our wives, our partners, our kids, whoever it is around us, they want to know that whoever's whoever's in front of them is interested in them and what they're up to, and so you give those people their time, and you know, they're going to be much more well, they'll be thankful for it, grateful for it, and who knows, you know, that's how you start building on, you know, on relationships and with those little quality moments. Anyway, I could dribble on about this stuff for a while because it's important to me. But yeah, I think that's the cornerstone to building relationships with your children, is just short quality periods of time, conversations, letting them know you love them, and being there for them. All right, guys, another one in the books. Signing out.